Welcome to day 69 of our journey through the Bible. The Hebrew text of the Old Testament do not make a distinction the way our Bible does between the books of 1st and 2nd Kings and the books 1st and 2nd Chronicles. There's just one book called Kings and one book called Chronicles. If you look at 1st Chronicles and look through the first 12 chapters, one of the things you'll notice is a lot of genealogies, and you may think, what is the relevance, what is the point of this? When you get acquainted with Kings and Chronicles, you discover a very significant detail. In Kings, the record is of all the tribes of Israel. But in Chronicles is a very different approach. Practically everything mentioned refers to just one tribe, the tribe of Judah. At times it'll refer to some of the other tribes, but only as it's needed to put in perspective something that's related to the tribe of Judah. Everything is written from the viewpoint of the line of David. Of course, that will be the lineage of Jesus. Another big difference is that the reports of Chronicles center around the temple. That's not true of the writing in Kings. During the reign of David, he wanted to get that temple built, but God told him not to do so, for he had been a warring man in his reign. And if you've been reading 1st and 2nd Samuel, you see there was a lot of violence and a lot of warfare in the life of David. However, he was told he would be followed by a man of peace. That would be Solomon, and it's his son Solomon who would actually build the temple. Now think back to where we started early on in Genesis chapter 4, where we talked about two lines of men. They both begin with Adam. One line we highlighted and called the God rejectors. But then, more importantly, there was that second line, the God followers. Now, if you think back through everything we've been studying so far, you begin to realize that the Bible has been really tracing the story of the God followers all along. I mean, sure, there's been a lot of details and information and references to the God rejectors, but the focus is on the people who live by faith, who were the servants of the Most High God, who had a living relationship with Him. They are the people who are the focus of the genealogies in Chronicles. They help you trace the line of faith and hope. Now, I don't suggest that you're going to spend a lot of time in these genealogies and find a great deal of immediate value in them, but if you ever have the time to get back and really focus on them and do some background searching, you will discover a lot of interesting details. Let me give you just one illustration. In 1 Chronicles 1, 13 and 14, we read, Canaan was the father of Sidon, his firstborn, and of the Hittites, Jebusites, Amorites, and Girgashites. I encourage you to sometime do a word study on the word Jebusite. If you have a good Bible encyclopedia or Bible dictionary, you'll discover that name means at its root, Jebus means to be trampled down, or literally the threshing place. So Jerusalem, which would be known as the place of peace, was originally a place overrun by Jebusites. They named it Jebus, the place of trampling, or the threshing place, rather than the place of peace. When David would conquer the city, he would name it the city of peace. These people were part of the Canaanite tribes. They were fathered by Canaan. They were very powerful until they were finally conquered by David, but the point is they weren't conquered until David's time. In 2 Samuel 5, we have the strategy that David uses to conquer them. I think you'll find that fascinating. And after David's time, the Jebusites were conquered. It was from Ornah, the Jebusite, that David bought a threshing floor that would be the site of the Ark of the Covenant. That little piece of ground is still one of the most important places on all the earth. Well, your Bible is full of treasures, even places with all these genealogies. I encourage you, as you have time and heart, spend some time, dig in, and do the close-up study as well as the big picture look. Well, let's read about that experience I just talked about with David buying that spot of land in 2 Samuel 24. And Gad came that day to David and said to him, Go up, raise an altar to the Lord on the threshing floor of Ornah the Jebusite. So David went up at Gad's word, as the Lord commanded. And when Ornah looked down, he saw the king and his servants coming on toward him. And Ornah went out and paid homage to the king with his face to the ground. And Ornah said, "Well, why has my lord the king come to his servant?" David said, "To buy the threshing floor from you, in order to build an altar to the Lord, that the plague may be averted from the people." And Ornah said to David, "Let my lord the king take and offer up what seems good to him. Here are the oxen for the burnt offering, and the threshing sledges, and the yokes of the oxen for the wood. All this, O king, Ornah gives to the king." And Ornah said to the king, "May the Lord your God accept you." But the king said to Ornah, "No, but I will buy it from you for a price. I will not offer burnt offerings to the Lord my God that cost me nothing." So David bought the threshing floor and the oxen for 50 shekels of silver.